What is good, NIO family? It's Rey-Jay back with another video. And in this one, I want to break down what's going on with NIO, Tesla, SPY, Nvda, the QQQ, and a couple of other tickers. I'm going to break down what the news is saying about NIO, what news is coming on for tomorrow, and the earnings, which are going to be very important, and other factors like that. But before I break anything down all this information, before I get into any more details, let me just mention a couple of things. I'm personally not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out the Webull link, which is down below and in the description. If you sign up for Webull, the link down below, and deposit any amount of money into the account, you are guaranteed up to 12 free stocks. The offer ends in just about 2 days from now, so check it out before they run out. Anyways, let's break down what's going on with NIO. NIO is down 2.49% for the day. The daily candle is looking relatively weak for NIO, and I'm personally anticipating a little bit more downside. I still think we could see NIO drop a bit more. But I also hold the notion that it's very probable the market's going to bottom soon. And I think that NIO is going to bottom as well very, very soon. We could get very close to $7 flat, and then we should see buyers stepping in. And I think we're going to see a very monstrous bounce from NIO after we reach that target. So I'm going to break down why that is and other information about that. And then I'm going to also talk about what the news is saying. So right now, I just wanted to call out that tomorrow at 10:30 a.m. Eastern Time, we have the Dallas Fed Manufacturing Index. And then 30 minutes after that, at 11 and 11:30, we have the bill auctions coming out, which could affect the market to some extent. And that's pretty much it. There's not a whole ton of data coming out for Monday. For Tuesday, however, we have the Chicago PMI report coming out and some house price index reports. So we're going to be watching this data carefully, but nothing is too crazy for Monday or Tuesday. What's going to be big for the markets is going to be Wednesday of this week, November 1st, since we have the FOMC meeting and Jerome Powell giving another speech. So whatever Jerome Powell says is going to have a big effect on this stock market. But if the Fed announces a pause, that could cause the whole market to rebound. That could help NIO bounce. So we're just going to be waiting to see what happens November 1st or for Wednesday. Now, for earnings, we have a couple of others coming out for Monday. We don't have anything else too crazy until the really big day is going to be Thursday when we have Shopify and Aapl. Wednesday has like PayPal and Roku, and then we have AMD and Pfizer on Tuesday. But Monday is not going to be that crazy. We have a couple of big ones like SoFi, McDonald's, Transocean, aka Rig, and just a couple of others. Nothing is going to be as big as Aapl, though. Apple's going to be the biggest one for the week, so make sure you watch that carefully. PayPal is also going to be pretty huge, so watch those two. Apple's going to be the biggest. So those are the big earnings for the week. Nothing too insane for Monday, however. When it comes to some new news that came out, the new projections coming out from an AI model where NIO's share price could go as time goes on. There is an expectation of NIO's share price reaching around $61 by 2025 and potentially even $174 by 2026. Now, this AI model is not very realistic. I can't promise you're going to go to like over 1,400 by 2028. But I do believe that it does suggest something that is realistic, and that is the potential upside for NIO. I could see it reaching $60+ by 2025. I could see NIO's share price reaching 174, sometime during this decade, but I can't, be way too optimistic or way too unrealistic when it comes to targets such as like 11,000 by the end of the decade. I don't know, guys. That seems like a bit of a stretch, but you never know. But like I said before, there's still incredible upside potential for NIO. I still believe in its growth, and I think that it's going to take time given the current global macroeconomic factors that are getting in the way for its projected increases and such. But I still believe that NIO is going to bounce, and I can't wait to see what the future holds. Now, on top of all of this, NIO had the 2000th power swap station open in China. That's great news for them as they're growing and they're continuing to expand their business across the country. This is going to give more and more leverage for their individuals that hold NIOs, and I can't wait for what else is about to come, especially as they expand in Europe. If NIO ends up buying its own facility, that's going to be very bullish news. I'm going to be waiting to see if news comes out about that. Nothing else has really changed in terms of data. Mondays tend to be green only about 49% of the time, but Tuesdays and Wednesdays tend to be stronger for the company. And finally, we have about 34 million in volume, which is not bad whatsoever for NIO. Very close to the average, but a little bit better. So what do I think NIO is going to do, guys? Here's my honest answer. We have a bearish looking daily candle, so we could see a bit more downside tomorrow. There's a risk of that. Stock is looking a little weak because of the stock market. I think we might rebound a tiny bit, retest 7.6, and reject and just continue to sink towards 7.3. But ultimately, by Tuesday, I think there's a chance we might see NIO sink a little harder. We could come down very close to this like 7 to 7.2 area. Just a little bit more downside, guys. I'm anticipating that. Looking at the current trend, it's looking quite bearish. And we also have this head and shoulders, which is not fully completed yet. It's very close to completing. But I think there's going to be a bit more downside, but I think that the market is going to eventually bounce in November. I think NIO is going to bounce by then. We just have a few more days of possibly significant selling. Then we're going to be waiting to see what happens with NIO's deliveries. But then I anticipate a very nice bounce as time goes on. Why do I say that? Because I believe I went over this yesterday in my video about why there's so many bullish factors for the markets. For SPY, I just want to call out that we still look bearish. I think this thing is going to rebound a little bit, try to make its way back up towards this 414 area, then potentially sell off and just start continuing to sink. It looks weak, but notice how we have this pattern where we have like 3 sell-off days, 2 to 3 sell-off days on a bounce. Like here, 3 sell-off days of bounce, 2 sell-off days of bounce. We sold off more. We had 2 sell-off days of bounce, 3 sell-off days of bounce, 3 sell-off days. So a little bounce could come, very small, little one, and then we could continue selling off on Tuesday, right before FOMC for the final bottom to be made. And then I think that FOMC could help the market rebound, and I think that could change the direction of this market. But look for a little rebound tomorrow, retest of 4.12. If we break that, 414 is a real possibility. Then the market could just fail and continue to sell off a little bit. Maybe we get a decent close for Monday, but then we sell off more for Tuesday, and then the market gets ready for some other moves. Tesla on the daily looks more bearish. There is definitely a risk of us coming back down towards that 2.02 level, 202.5 level. Sorry, guys. Tesla's looking a bit weaker. If you look at the 4-hour time frame, it's not looking the strongest. But I could see Tesla rebounding a bit. It depends on how we react to this 211.5 resistance at the 4-hour 20 EMA. We're going to retest this, and if Tesla rejects, it's going to start sinking back down. It's on a downtrend. There's no sign of it bouncing yet, and it does look bearish. But what I'm anticipating is this thing could bottom soon with the markets. It depends on if we hold 200 or not. I think it's going to rebound a bit towards 211, then reject, and it's going to sell off a little bit, and we could see it sell off more aggressively on Tuesday. We look like we're going to retest this 203.5 area. The chart is still looking bearish unless we end up breaking 212 and holding it. It looks bearish, and I think the odds favor a bit more downside. And then we're going to see upside possibly on Wednesday or after FOMC. That's what I'm anticipating. For Aapl, I mean, it made an attempt to rebound. We could go a little higher towards this imbalance at 170, then reject and start selling off. Just be a little careful that Aapl is still not in the strongest of trends. It's continuing to sell off. And we happen to have this, bearish looking structure from a 5-wave Elliott wave perspective. So look for a little rebound on Aapl towards 170, then it could reject, and there could just be a little drop after that. The QQQ is the same thing, basically. I mean, this thing is making an attempt to rebound. We could retest 349 or so, but it might fail there and then just continue to sell off. There could be more selling. I don't think the QQQ is fully done yet. So you want to be very careful, especially when you look at the daily. The daily is still looking kind of weak. It's just barely at the 200 EMA. We're going to be watching to see if this holds or not. I think some buyers will try to defend a little bit, so it might try to rebound towards like 348 to 349, reject. But once it loses 344.5, if it fails to hold that, there's a risk of it coming down towards 340. So for a little bit more downside before we get a very big reaction after FOMC. My best prediction would be a little pop and then a drop, so watch those levels carefully. Nvda is looking a little weak. We tend to have about 3 to 4 days of like selling before we get some kind of like rebounds. So you can see this happen many times historically. Right here we had 2 days of selling, a little bounce here, 2 days of selling a small little bounce, 2 days in a bounce, 3 days in a bounce. Very, very small one. We had this is like 4 days of selling before it made an attempt to come back up. But the chart's still on a downtrend, so there's no true sign of it trying to bounce yet. Look for a little rebound towards this 410 to 414 area, then a rejection, and it could continue to sell off from there. There's a risk of it coming down towards 400. If it loses that, watch 398 and 395 for that gap down there. And it could be a bit more downside before we see buyers try to defend this thing. So just be very careful, guys. There is a risk of some more downside, but I think there's going to be a little rebound first. Market should pop first, then slow down as time goes on. That is what I'm anticipating. So I also believe that the VIX, it's on an uptrend, so that's why the market is not fully ready to bounce yet. There could be some more downside. We got a relatively weak close on SPY, and I think that this could slow NIO down. NIO may rebound with the market, retest 7.6, and come right back down, get very close to about $7. Then after that, I think that once we're very close to that level, we're going to see buyers step in around there. So look for a little pop and then drop on NIO. The daily is still looking kind of weak. When you look at the 4 hour, we're also looking relatively weak simultaneously. And as time goes on, the market is just continuing to be selling on this trend. So I believe that going into the next couple of days, there is going to be a potential bounce coming to NIO. But we have to see how deliveries go, and we have to wait for FOMC to get there. So just be patient, guys. Just know there's some downside potential for the company, but the long term is still very bright regardless of all of this. All right. So thank you for listening. Have a good one. I'll see you guys in the next one. NIO to the moon, and peace out.